Welcome to the Bearded Finisher Podcast, your one-stop show for all things finishing and coatings. Your host, Zach, and a variety of industry experts will guide you through the art of perfecting your finishing and business game. From seasoned pros to fresh faces, get ready for tips, tricks, and trends to elevate your knowledge and business to the next level.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Bearded Finisher Podcast. Today, we have got Miss Chrissy Rollison with Winegardener Fine Finishing and Coatings. They are up in Honesdale, Pennsylvania. How you doing, Chrissy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So, we were just kind of chatting about this offline, but Honesdale, kind of let everybody know where Honesdale, Pennsylvania is.
So we're in the most northeast corner of Pennsylvania. So we border New York and we border New Jersey. We're about 2.5 hours outside of New York City.
Whoa.
We have one of I think it's the second largest man-made lake, which is Lake Wallenpaupack. So we have a really big tourist second home community.
Okay. So how is the lake, being from Oklahoma, we have a ton of lakes.
It's 52 miles in radius.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a big lake.
That's pretty big. How's the water? Is it stay pretty clear and cold, or is it?
It warms up enough to swim in it in the summer, but it's a typical Northeast lake. It's not blue. The springtime, it doesn't smell the best.
I mean, I'm from Oklahoma. They're, usually fairly brown.
Yeah, this one's probably more a little green.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. It is. And I'm from New Jersey. I spent my weekends and summers as a tourist up here, and I ended up moving up. That's
pretty awesome. We just got back from Durango, as I was telling you, in Colorado, and my 7-year-old son wanted to go rafting. So we went on the Animas River and went whitewater rafting. And that water was, it's beautiful, but it was 52 degrees. So he loved getting in. He was blue and purple when he came out, but I was just like, nah, I'm good. I don't need to get in the water.
I want to say the lake gets to about 65, 70, but I can remember Memorial Days where the kids were getting out of the water. We were getting out of the water blue. You know what I like?
That's not for me.
No.
Well, let's kind of, let's share your story. I want to hear, because I know you're with Winegardener Fine Finishing and Coatings, and previous to that, you had your own company. So, let us know how you got started in the painting business and how that transitioned into your business, and then how that transitioned over to Winegardener.
So I think with a lot of women, it started with furniture. I was painting furniture for myself, not even doing it. And then, that kind of snowballs, right? So the next thing you know, Aunt Sally wants her dining room table painted, or, cousin Cindy Lou Who wants a dresser. And I started young. I was in high school and we had moved into a house. There was a dresser in the basement that was left there. And I found a can of acetone and decided to strip it with acetone. And my stepfather figured it out, and his mom was really artsy craftsy, my grandmother. And they got me everything I needed to sand it, restain it, and clear coat it. And I've been doing it since I was 16. So really, really self-taught up until probably 2019. The furniture, a friend turned around and said, "What do you think? Can we paint my kitchen cabinets?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm not putting chalk paint on your kitchen cabinets. That kind of doesn't seem like a good idea." So my first kitchen I painted with emerald. And I was like, there's got to be something better than this. Because, of course, it was like peppercorn, and it took forever to dry and cure because it was just soft forever. I found PVG Breakthrough. And I did 2 kitchens with that until they reformulated it. And then you couldn't find the 250 anymore. Or it became harder to find the 250. I was like, there still has to be a professional product. There has to be something. I found a video of you spraying, I think it was Circa out of a 3M HVLP. And I was like, okay, so even though I know these are going to be thicker, I know I can do this. Then I found Eric Reason, and Eric mentioned the kitchen cabinet expert group or something like that at the time on Facebook, which was Corey Leister's group. So I logged in and then got completely overwhelmed in my rabbit hole because of the numbers. And I finally just one morning I woke up and I made a post and I was like, I don't get the numbers. Just tell me what is a great product for a beginner with industrial coatings, but someone who does have a little bit of experience spraying and brushing and rolling. And I think Corey reached out to me and Jess, I'm going to butcher her name, Vanderkamp. And she's the little painter chick on Instagram. Yeah, she's in the mud. So I ended up driving from here to Harrisburg to Corey's shop, picking up 2 little cans of Malacy, went home, sprayed it, and then called Clark Deco the next day because I had a kitchen coming up and I was using it.
Corey is, I mean, she has done so much for the painting world. I mean, she's amazing.
Yes. Yeah. I took a class down at her shop that Denny Jans taught, and what a love. he is amazing.
He's a great guy.
So I've gotten to network a lot through that. And then now I'm a moderator in the DIY group for Corey, and then like a group expert in a couple of others. So yeah, I mean, my journey just it was a slow go, and then it just went boom.
Yeah. And so this whole time you're still doing redesign on Highland, right? With your company.
Doing redesign on Highland. I was doing kitchens. We were super busy from like 2019 to 2021. And then I had an emergency surgery that was supposed to be like a 4-week recovery that turned into a 4-month recovery because it didn't go as planned. So unfortunately, like I had 4 employees at that point. I had to kind of let them go. It wasn't what I was expecting to happen. Luckily enough, the kitchens I had on the books, they were willing to reschedule. I came back and I just started working by myself. And it's a lot, man. Carrying a fan, carrying the pump, it is so much.
Well, and you're just kind of capped. I mean, you can do good by yourself. I talk to guys like that all the time, but you know, it's not scalable because I mean, there's only so many hours in a day.
One of the things that I've learned with meeting new people and talking about this industry is I love to take in as much information as I can from people, but I also like to give as much information as I can to people. Like doing classes in the future would be something I would just eat up. So I met Eric, who owns Winegardener. He reached out to me on Instagram. We had started following each other. We both knew we were local. He reached out to me on a Saturday, and next thing I know, I'm standing in his shop, just talking. He is amazing. Stains, he does the Renner system, the custom matches, which I have not really gotten into.
Yeah, that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
It's a whole nother rabbit hole, but I'm excited about it. They also do interior and exterior painting for a couple of the really big builders up here. Like we have a huge project starting at some point. It's like a 6,000 square foot house. So, we've been going back and forth. I would walk into the shop because this shop is gorgeous. I mean, you can see an industrial spray booth is a little bit different than my blower out my basement window with some air filters on it, right? And I'd be like, you just need to hire me. And then he'd turn around and be like, we definitely got to figure something out and do a project together. And I got a phone call from him on like a Tuesday morning. It was a Tuesday morning, and he's like, hey, is there any way that you can stop by and see me? And I was like, yeah, probably. Except I don't have a car today. He's like, well, I'm going to come to you. He's like, I'll be there in 10 minutes. is like, I don't start work till 10. I'm still in my pajamas. So I ran downstairs. He showed up and he's like, I'm just going to throw this out here. But I forget exactly how he worded it, but it was basically like, I think you should just come to work for me. And I was like, okay, like, what are you thinking? He goes, I haven't really thought much more than the fact that I really just think you need to come to work for me. I said, all right. I'm like, let's try to figure it out. I'm not opposed to it. I need to think about it a little bit. You know, let's both kind of think what we want out of this and meet back up. So I thought about it. He thought about it. We met back up, and we were on the same. We were like right next to each other. We were right there. You know, he's got more experience with the stains. I have more experience with the industrial coatings. So my knowledge is a little more clutch for him, especially right now up here with kitchens. I think eventually we're going to see more of the wood stuff come back. So he is going to train me on that. But we sat down and he threw out numbers and I went, I'm yours. I couldn't have dreamt a better possibility. I am managing the fine finish division is what we're calling it. And building that side. With all the builders and all of that stuff, he hasn't really had the time to concentrate on that. So they do get cabinet jobs. They're kind of here or there. So I still basically get to do what I was doing, building that side of the business, training the guys that I'm going to have working for me, and then managing the shop. And my furniture stuff is all mine, and I still get to run it out of here.
I mean, that's a pretty flippin' sweet deal. You still get to do all your furniture and what you were doing.
I give them a little bit for overhead, and I'm still doing it's all being done under Winegardener because I made the decision. It wasn't an easy decision. I had worked really hard for that business. But at the end of the day, when I made the decision, it was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I'm like, what am I going to do with the extra 4 hours of time at night?
You're not estimates or invoicing or
advertise. You know, I think most of us do our own marketing because of social media. Making reels became such a daunting task for me that like I would sit there at night on the couch and my boyfriend would be like, are you right? I'm like, no, I'm not creative.
I completely sympathize with that one. It is.
And it was just me. So it wasn't like there was a ton of footage, right? Like, how many times do people want to see my rear end in a video? Like,
well, I mean, how many times are you like, all right, I'm going to set up something and I'm just going to record for like an hour so I have footage. And then you're halfway through spraying and you went, shit, I forgot to set up the camera. And then you're like, I got everything on. I'm just going to keep spraying. And at the end of the day, you're like, crap, I don't have any footage. I don't know how many times I did that.
Probably once a week.
At least.
Yeah. I'm still going to be doing that stuff. I'm going to be taking over the Instagram and the Facebook for him, doing site visits, that kind of thing during the week until the cabinet side's built up. And then we'll figure out something else there. But yeah, he's a honey. He is the nicest guy. We get along really well. We have a very similar vision for what we'd like to see this grow into. So it was, the stars aligned. I couldn't have dreamt up a better, and I needed a win. Let me tell you.
I mean, I get it. I mean, when I had my company, it was the same way. It can be daunting. And then when my wife wanted me to sell so we could move to Texas, so she wanted to take a promotion, I was like, hey, I'm in support of it. Let's do it. And, it was like you're kind of like, oh man, do I really want to do this? But then after you do it, it's like a 500-pound gorilla just got lifted off your back.
Yeah. And I'm honest that the money's not much different. So I'm like, I'm here.
It can be someone else's headache. Yeah. I mean, I get it. Every once in a while, I'm like, should I get back in? Because I miss it. Every once in a while, I miss doing the finishing. But then I get to talk to people like you and doing the podcast, and I'm like, no employees. This is so much better.
Yeah, and I was kind of at a crossroads too at that point. We were getting ready to go on vacation. I did a kitchen by myself. I had just finished a kitchen by myself in New York that I had like 2 flights of stairs to walk up. Like, it sounds, yeah, like, and I remember my boyfriend and I kind of sat down and we're like, all right, we're going to sit down over vacation. We're going to talk this out. You either need to grow this back to where it was, where we had the employees and we need to actually look for a shop, or maybe put your resume together and see if, Centurion or Renner or one of the coatings companies would pick you up or me up, or Serve Prep or something like that. And I was like, I don't know that I wanted, I'm not a salesperson, right? I have to really love a product in order to sell it. I was in real estate for 10 years. I sucked at it. I'm really good at walking into somebody's home and explaining to them what I can do to make their kitchen better, and explaining to them why picking me over Joe Schmo is a good idea. And I'm good with people. I don't know if I could sell a product that I didn't really love. Like, my favorite industrial coating is Centurion. By far, I don't care if it's the 400 series or the 2800 series. By far, it is my favorite. And I'm like, everybody's got to use it. So if I found him with them, I might have been okay.
It's just kind of one of those, because, I was there for almost 3 years running the show on the sales side, but, and I hadn't used it until, they asked me to come out there and do like a tour when I moved to Dallas and put some postings out. And that was my first time spraying it in their lab, because we didn't have it in Oklahoma. And I was like, now this is some pretty badass water-based product right here. Like, this stuff's pretty awesome. So, I mean, that side of it gets fun, but you're still in, you semi-corporate world. I realized I was not built for that.
Yeah, and I've been in corporate before, and I think I'd miss spraying and sanding. I love to sand. I'm like crazy.
Yeah, I would say you are just a wee bit crazy if you love to sand. I'll pass that on any day of the week.
It's like one of my downfalls. Like, I'm an over prepper, way over prep.
That's okay. That makes the finish so much easier.
I know. But yeah, so this was just a no-brainer. My daughter's calling him Eric the Fairy Godfather.
I like that. How old's your daughter?
17.
17. Whew. I'm not ready. My daughter turns 4 this year. No.
Those are the fun years.
Yeah. We're at dinner and some girls walk by that like 15 something. I don't know anymore. I don't know how old anybody is. My wife goes, "You ready?" And I'm like, no, shut it up. No.
We're looking at colleges and all that fun stuff, because she'll be a senior this year.
Man. So when you went over to Eric's, kind of just like explain, like, what was he using? What's he using now?
He is using Renner. I did the first week with them. I kind of shadowed his guys on a run through on a kitchen. So they're using Renner. They were using the 083 primer and the 765 top coat.
Yeah. So the stain blocking primer, kind of their blocking primers, the 083 and the 765 is they're using it. Yeah, it's a single component. It's like would be similar to like the 1108 and for Centurion.
1108 block?
No.
I've never tried it.
The 1111 5% will block.
Yeah, that stuff. I'm in love.
They have a new product coming out. I don't know if it's released yet. The 1109. It's not. I'm telling you that when that 1109 comes out.
So Jeremy and Kim from Red Tulip, I think they're hoping, because they're doing through being in Corey's mod group. Kim and Mike Dennehy was a guy that's in there that used to do like a morning group chat with everyone. So whoever was around on the moderator group could sign in. And so we'd video chat in the morning, like especially for me not having coworkers at the time, that phone beeped and I was like, good morning. I met Kim, and we've actually only met once in person, but she has literally become my best friend.
Kim and Jeremy are amazing.
They're amazing. So they're hoping to get their hands on it before their class in October, because I think it's supposed to drop somewhere around there.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of it ready. We had a lot of the R&D done. We done 2 phases of testing when I was there. I mean, I think it's real close. I think they were doing some, finite things to get it better honed in, but it's going to be an awesome product here. I mean, everyone's going to love it.
I use the 400. I have a small furniture company that sells that power wood furniture and some Amish furniture unfinished. You can pick your finish. So I do 90% of their finishing, unless it's like a decorative finish or they want like a character drawn on it. That's not me. And we were using milk paint, General Finishes milk paint. So I was doing their stain blocking primer, which it does what it's supposed to do. I don't want to knock it because it does 100% what it's supposed to do.
It's been out for a while. Yeah.
But God forbid I would feel horrible for someone who doesn't know how to spray that product because you're not sanding it back.
No, yeah.
So then we were using the milk paint and then the high performance top coat as the top coat. I was touching a piece of furniture like 18 times before it was done. So I started doing the math to see how much product we were using. And then I did the math on how much product I would use if I did 1111 and 400. Like a third. I'm saving them 2/3 in product. Yeah. Well, I'm doing, a coat to 2 coats of 1107 and a coat to 2 coats of 400. Whereas before I was doing 2 coats of stain blocking primer, because I'm neurotic like that, 3 coats of milk paint, and then a coat of sanding sealer, and then a coat to 2 coats of top coat. And I love their top coat. I think that their top coat is it's just a nice product. I think it's a great beginner product for spraying. But it was insane. It's taken me like 10 days to do a small little end table because I'm touching it so much.
Good night. That's a lot of touches. Yeah, I did a small stint in I always call it the automotive style finishing, primer, and then I did a base coat, and then I did a clear, like you would get most cars finished. Before I was still doing, I think that was still in the CV days. And I was like, man, this is genius. I love this until everything kind of transitioned into pigmented. And then it was great until someone scratched it or a kid bumped something into it. And they're like, can you come touch it up? And the first time I did a touch up, I went, shit, I got to change this process. This does not touch up very well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that was huge to get them to change. But so anyway, back to the kitchen that I did with Eric's crew. They spray their kitchens with the Apollo. I used to spray in home with my 35-pound compressor and my HVLP cup because I was given an airless at one point and I hated it. And then I did that class with Corey, and Denny was like, wait, just wait. I left that class. I went home. I bought a Titan ED655 and never looked back.
There's a lot of great pumps out there. There's a lot of pumps out there that are amazing, but I've used Tritech, all of them. The 655 is still hands down my favorite pump.
My biggest problem with the 655 is I think if you don't have a mechanical mindset, because it can be finicky.
It can.
And I do have another friend of mine that I had buy one, and she hates it because she just can't grasp the concept of taking it apart to fix things, replacing that inlet. Even the primer valve, you have to tighten the nut. It's finicky.
What's crazy though is my father-in-law started the painting company that I bought, and he'd been doing it for 30 something years. And prior to piston pumps coming out, everything was diaphragm. Like that's like the original paint pump. He's got a Graco unit. It's long gone now. When I took over, this Graco unit was from like the 70s, and it was a diaphragm pump. That's how paint pump started, was diaphragm. And then somewhere along the way, someone decided, hey, let's do piston pumps. They're going to require more maintenance. They're harder to repair, so we can sell more parts. And the whole industry transitioned into piston pumps, and diaphragm pumps kind of died out. But being that it's an older technology, you're right, there is a little more finesse, but
yeah, and I think it's a great little machine. You have to be willing to learn how it works and how to take it apart and put it back together.
That's the key thing. You have to be willing to work on it a little bit.
Take it apart and put it back together. I've learned that you don't lose the little spring, because if you lose the little spring, you better have a backup.
Yep.
You know, but I love it. And, you know, I still, one of my favorite guns is actually the Harbor Freight Black Widow. The 1.3 for clear coat is freaking amazing. It's amazing. And then my other one is I have the 3M Pro Industrial that I love.
Oh, with the interchangeable tip, disposable tips?
Yeah.
It's hard to go wrong with that gun. It's so versatile.
It is so versatile. It's stupid.
We bought a Nest Iwata makes one called an Ergunza. It's got a 1.7 in it, and it's a gravity fed cup gun. But we had one, and it was only, I think I got the kit, and it was, oh man, I want to say $110, $120. Best gravity fed primer gun I've ever had. That's all we did was run through primer.
Yeah. It started with a Husky out of Home Depot. It worked. You learn how to, as long as you know what you want the atomization to look like, you're good.
Exactly. As long as you have some sort of guideline or what you're looking for to atomize it, you can make any gun work to a certain point. You can get going. You can do a lot of stuff. When you get into some of the crazy, high atomization, high gloss clears, the wet looks, the metallics, some of the special effects, the gun can make the difference. But for standard painting.
So Eric, their interiors are all Fine Paints of Europe. So he plays with like the Holland lac and that kind of stuff, which I can't wait. That's just going to be way too much fun for me. And I've always been too cheap to buy it to play with it on my own.
I mean, I'm mixed. Like I like the Fine Paints, a great product. Their oil is just hands down probably some of the best brushing oil that I've ever used. I played with some of that Holland lac. They sent me some to try out back in the day, and I'd been using a 2K wet look from Circa. Like I just could not get past the dry time.
Yeah, so we're actually going to bring in, I want to bring in some of the ICA, their 100 sheen. I saw Matt Slater did some stuff with that. It looked really good. So we're going to bring that in and just do some testing with it. We have some other products we're going to bring in to do some testing with. But yeah, I mean, so Eric is Fine Paints of Europe certified. He just did that a couple months ago, which is cool.
Did you get to go to the class?
No, I didn't. He sent one of the other guys to Zach Kenny's class out in Rhode Island. So he just did that one. I want to do that one next year. I really want to take a Ferrometal class.
Robert is working on some new classes, and with Chade and Adam doing a little more traveling.
I want to meet Chade so bad.
Chade is one of the coolest guys.
He just seems like such a cool guy.
So laid back.
chatted with different things. I think I've messaged him like once or twice. He just seems like he'd just be such a nice guy. Like, I'd love to get him and is Robert's Bespoke, right?
Yes.
Kieran from NYC. Like, I have a list of guys I'd like to just have in one room for about 20 minutes and just let me ask you questions. Like, I am that's how much of a paint geek I am.
See, and so what I've been actually thinking about doing, and that kind of, you're helping me out there. Like, I've been thinking about doing, getting like 4 or 5 guys together and doing like a 1 hour live panel, get all these guys on and have people be able to send in questions or jump on a chat and talk to these guys. And, you know, some of those, Zach, Eric, Nick Slavik, Chade, some of those guys that just a broad spectrum, cover everything from residential painting to high-end finishing.
And you know what I love about those guys too? Like, Nick Slavik, I've never met him. Kim gave me his email. I sent him an email. I asked him for his SOP because I just wanted a guideline to start my own. And he sent me his SOPs for his whole business. Like, are you kidding me?
Nick is so much about sharing information. He and I have chatted. He's coming on here later this month.
You know, and I can remember trying to find information, 15 years ago, and you couldn't even walk into a woodworking shop or a finishing shop, and I swear they would have like duct tape over the labels of the cans of paint they were using. It was like so hush-hush secret.
Yes, this is my sauce. I can't tell you what I do to mix it. A lot of these guys, social media has done a lot. And then these guys that are just willing to share information. I mean, I think in the beginning, Dennis is great. In the beginning.
He's actually the one who got me to start using CIC.
Oh man, Dennis is great. We just recorded an episode last week with Dennis.
Right. And you have Kim and Jeremy in a couple of days.
Kim and Jeremy are coming on. Nick's supposed to be coming on later this month. So we've got some pretty awesome guests lined up. So, and just the fact that these guys are willing to come on and just tell their story and how, because what I've learned is finishing is an art and it's a business, but running a business is a business. Trying to merge these two into the paint world is quite the task.
And that's what that is in the long run what made me make that decision. I mean, he came in on a Tuesday. That following, I think I had about a week and a half, and then I did that first kitchen. And then I went on vacation. I came back, and I've literally been going to my shop, cleaning stuff, bringing it over here, reorganizing this place. It's been crazy. It was a crazy 2 weeks. But in the long run, I went on vacation thinking that I was going to be working my whole vacation. And I didn't. I sat by the pool, sat on the beach, hung out with my family. It was awesome.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing as a lot of people don't think of as an entrepreneur owning your own business, like vacations, like they don't really exist. Like people think, oh, you can take all the time off you want. No, because that phone still rings. Invoices still got to go out. Bills still got to get paid. I mean, it never stops. And it can be fun, but sometimes you just want to go.
I'm definitely going to miss some of that control. But at the end of the day, I walked out of here yesterday at 4:30. My job was done. I was here at 7. I went home.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I'm doing what I love. I have young guys underneath me. I have 2 that I'll be working with more, that I get to teach what I've learned, and I get to show them that if I can't figure it out, we have people around us who can help us figure it out.
Figure it out is half the fun. I'd always love that. One of my favorite things to do was we did a big house and the lady just had stuff that wasn't even paint. It was like finished acrylic pieces. And she was like, this is what I want my cabinets to look like. Or I want my stair treads to look like rocky pebbles, but high gloss. I mean, it was over the top, but just trying to figure out, okay, how can I, doing some epoxies with river pebbles or spraying stuff. And I'm like, well, that looks like dog shit. Let's try it a different way.
When we first started, Eric was over here in the corner. He's got a house that has oak floor, and then they just put in a bunch of, they're doing a cathedral tongue and groove ceiling, and they want the ceiling to match the floor, except the ceiling's going to be pine. And I just looked at him, I go, you have fun with that one. Like, it's going to be closed, but you're not going to get the depth.
Oh man, it's
not oak.
Yeah, it's not oak.
And then a piece of poplar trim that's already been stained that he's got to come up with the toner for, because they want that to match everything too.
Uh-huh. That's where that Renner system does, the water-based stains in that Renner system. They come in really handy because those microlith and micronized pigments can do some amazing things. But man, I was doing that system with Circa. It's very similar to Renner's, and I love stain. I can't wait for stain to come back. I mean,
it's coming back.
It is slowly. It's headed that way.
You're seeing a lot of the two-tone now. It's a lot of that white quarter-sawn oak look.
The Cerust oak.
And then the paint or the Cerust oak. I think it is. I think the problem is that you can't take a 90s kitchen and get the look these people are going for.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're doing tons of green fill, when then it's just cheaper to buy new cabinets at that point when you're trying to make.
Yeah, but I've had a couple of phone calls where they wanted to take golden oak and make it look like white oak. And they send you these pictures of these beautiful, like, Hoosier type cabinets with, the brass hardware, and it's quarter-sawn oak, and they're inset doors, and they've got a 1990s Home Depot kitchen. And you're like, I can get the color there, but it's not going to look like that.
That's got a little bit more involved than what you're thinking.
Yeah. We can hire a carpenter, and they can build new cabinets, and we can paint the rest.
Yeah. That's about it.
Yeah. But I do think we're going to see it come back more and more. Hopefully we haven't painted all of the wood.
It's what's going to be interesting. Who was I talking to? It might have been Dennis offline after we finished recording the other day. I think it was him. But what I think is going to be interesting is once this whole refinishing trend flips, and it will. I mean, my father-in-law's been doing it since the 70s in Vail, Colorado, and he's like, it already did this flip once where everything was clear, and then it went to paint, and then it went to stain, and now it's gone back to paint. He goes, the real fun transition is everyone's got painted cabinets, and then they all of a sudden decide they want it all to be stained again. He's like, he said that trend will happen. And he goes, when that one happens, it'll be interesting to see how refinishers adapt, because that's the one where cabinet makers end up making a lot of money. Well,
I think that's where it's important to now, because there are a lot of cabinet makers out there that are not using necessarily the products that they should be using. I think getting our feet in the door with those cabinet makers and getting
is
them
huge.
To start, like finding that we've got one now up in New York that we're starting to work with here. I think that's going to be a huge thing for refinishers.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite deals when I had my company, was getting all the relationships with the cabinet builders. If I saw dust collectors, I was pulling over. I don't care if I was headed to an estimate or job site. I saw dust collector and I'm pulling over to see what they make. Talk to them about finishing, because you think about when you, like you guys at Winegardener, is you're in a unique position to go help all of these 2, 3, 1, 6-man cabinet shops that absolutely hate finishing. Help them adapt their process a little bit, and then they're competing against the box stores. They're competing against the massive companies that do their own finishing on flat lines, just because they made a small little tweak in their system that allows them to offer any kind of finish possible.
Yep. Like even hitting local kitchen cabinet stores, right? Because you have your Home Depot, but every town's got one. Because they are in contact with the local cabinet makers. They know who they are, especially in a small area like I'm in. So that would be my first task as the fine finish division manager.
That'll be, I mean, and it's a fun one, getting out there and just making all those relationships, though. I think it's, and it goes for a long way. Like, I still have cabinet builders from Oklahoma that reach out to me and ask me questions, or, hey, what do you think about this? And just long lasting friendships that you end up with that you didn't think.
It's how I ended up here. I have more knowledge of the industrial side coatings than Eric does. I mean, he's got it with the stains and the high gloss and the fine paints of Europe, but I don't want to say win out, but that's where my knowledge is. That's what I'm good at. So use me where you can use me, right?
That's what that's what you're there for, is combining knowledge. That's what makes a difference. So, like, I've had a lot of people come in or come on the show. We've talked, and the question that I had for you, how do we get more women comfortable with this industry? There's not a ton here, but the ones that are here, like, you have to admit it, women have a better eye for the painting and the finishing. They have more of that artistic eye that us guys we just really don't have.
I think classes are a big thing. I think a lot of women that are entering this are doing it as, it starts off as a way to make extra money while they're a stay-at-home mom, right? Getting them more comfortable with the equipment is one of the biggest things, and that was me. I was comfortable with I had a 3M AccuSpray. I was good to go. I went to that class. I think getting women to take the classes is huge. We could also censor some of the jerks.
There's that in every industry. Painting maybe a little bit higher.
Yeah, I think it's getting women to realize there's better products out there than heirloom traditional paint and chalk paint. And it's just education, but they have to be open to it also. And let's be real, when was the last time you told your wife what to do? So I think more people like Corey Leister, Kim, me, Jess Vanderkamp, like the women that you are finding that are doing this. And I could go, I've got a list a mile long. Alternative Finishes, I can't remember her name. She does all sorts of crazy stuff. The Finisher, Kayla Jordan. She worked for ZK for a while, and I think she just went to town something. I follow her on Instagram. She has no idea who I am.
Oh, I was wondering if she left and did her own thing. Good for her.
Yeah, so she's now the Finisher. I'll send you her page. She's amazing. It's getting women to, I think, be more open with what they're doing, because I think you kind of feel like you're going to get shot down when you're making posts, and that was a hard thing for me. I still have imposter syndrome. I know what I'm doing. I'll get on the phone. There's been a couple times I've called Denny Jans, and I'll be like, I don't know why this is doing this. And he'd be like, take a deep breath. We know you know what you're doing. Let's talk it out. I think women just need to do their research, find people they can talk to, and don't be afraid.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's the butt heads in every industry, but there's now, like my father-in-law has always been, he's 72 this year, and he's always been a proponent of our industry. The finishing industry has the worst culture of training and classes. Like, it just doesn't exist. He would be bugging manufacturers like all the time when he was my age, telling these guys like, hey, do a brush class. Like, just send the brush manufacturer over to the paint store and host a lunch and just teach guys how to proper cut-in techniques and, you know, proper rolling techniques. You got to finish the same way, the same direction, and when you're rolling walls, and how the sheen affects stuff, why you can't spray walls, just things like that every painter holds so close to the vest. It's like, let's just teach it. But now we're in a time where everyone is much more open to classes.
But everybody's an expert too. So I lack a filter. I'm very, and I'm a moderator in the DIY group. So and I feel bad because you got all these DIYers, they'll post stuff, but there's also a ton of professionals that are in there that, you know, they throw so much advice at you, and everybody knows how to do it. Everybody knows how to do it.
And it's the best way.
And it's the best way, and it's the only way.
Yeah. There's a lot of truth to that.
I mean, you and I could finish the same cabinet door using different products and achieve the same look.
Exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So why are we bad-mouthing somebody who's doing their own cabinets? They went to Home Depot, they bought Diablo 320. They just didn't sand it back enough. Like, why can't you just tell them they didn't sand it back enough? Not that they have to go buy Cubitron by the roll at, you know, $30, $40 a roll.
Yeah, I would agree. I would have to agree. There's 100 different ways. I used to train people all the time, and I'd be like, even in sales, you know, when I hired new sales guys at CIC, I was like, you're going to shadow 3 different guys for 3 different months. You're going to see 3 different ways to do training, 3 different ways to talk to distributors, in every way. If you like one of them, use it. If you want to put all 3 together and make your own, that's fine. Like, there's 100 ways to get to the finish line. Like, just...
I mean, I think as professionals, I mean, of course we're going to spend more money on our sandpaper because we want it to last longer. We don't want to get through one door and throw it away.
Yes.
So yeah, I just go in and accept or decline new members in the morning, and I try to stay away from commenting very often.
Yeah, commenting is one I have to stay off of. I just wait for the direct messages if they need help, and I'm just like, nah. Because you see some of those in there, and they get into some pretty decent, you know what, measuring.
Yeah, my favorite is in the professional group, when you see like Denny will give a response, and then someone will tell him he's doing it wrong, and then he comes back and he like explains the chemistry of the paint, and you're like, you're an idiot. Wrong person, buddy. Wrong person.
That reminds me, my wife's that way with finances. Like, she's a finance person, and she's really good at what she does. She does it for a government contracting company, and she did this whole deal with work, and then she her 2 level up bosses came down and said, I don't approve this. Your math is wrong. And, you know, first of all, corporate world or not, you just told a woman she was wrong. So there's strike 1. And my wife doesn't do stuff with math and finance unless she doesn't put it out, unless she knows it's right. So she was kind of mad, and I was like, oh, that poor bastard. He doesn't know what he just signed up for. Like, you just say, oh man, that's decent advice. I would do it this way. Don't have to tell someone they're wrong.
So I think people need to learn how to approach things online a little bit better, especially in those groups, because you're in that group because you were looking for information. Don't get yourself blocked from the group because you disagree with the way someone who's been in this business for 30 something years and could run circles around you with any product you throw in front of them. You know, I just, those are the ones.
And then there's always the whole text and never, you know, it never comes across as intended. You know, it's all the person.
Well, I need texting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so aggressive. I read every text message as aggressive.
Well, you know that. You go back and be like, what's this asshole saying? Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
That is basically it. My boss sent me a message the other morning. He's like, hey, tomorrow morning, meet me at the shop. Do you know what time you plan on coming in? I just want to talk about a couple of things. And I'm like, I've only worked for you for a week. What could you want to yell at me about now already? And that was basically my response was, good or bad stuff, I need to sleep tonight. Like, that was my way of not coming off aggressive.
Hey, you know, that kind of works.
But I do think that we see more women coming into it. I think women are starting to see that there are better products. I hope they continue to see it, because I can't take many more people painting kitchen cabinets with anti-slum chalk paint and thinking it's okay. I mean, even I knew from the beginning that was a bad idea.
I'm thinking the chalk paint is on the way out. I'm hoping.
Yeah, you're starting to see some acrylic mixes come into the play. So there's no top coating. But I mean, even Wise Owl, I think at one point they were releasing a paint or 1 hour enamel or something, and it said on it that it was kitchen manufactured. What is it? The
KCMA.
Yeah, approved or certified. And I think Michael Crane did a video on it, and he just went like up one side, down one. You got to look for that video.
I'll have to look for that.
Because he tried to call them, and she wouldn't get on the phone with them. Because he's like, they don't certify anything.
Yeah, KCMA doesn't do any certification.
Standard or it doesn't, you know. Malaysia, I wish Corey didn't stop doing the private label with Malaysia. I think that was a great way to get that product into women's hands.
Well, and I think the what I always said, and one of my big passions when I was at CIC, and it still is a passion of mine, is getting industrial professional grade products in your local paint store. That is the key. The less people have to order, and I get it, online ordering isn't bad if you plan ahead. I don't want to knock online ordering from these guys, but the more mainstream you make pro industrial finishing products, paint, equipment, the more people are going to start using it. So like, I get it. A lot of stores say, hey, manufacturers say, I don't want my stuff in a paint store. I don't want them selling it to DIY guys. And I understand that theory, but if you want the, $8 billion a year in painting industry to adapt a product and it become, whether it's Malaysia, Centurion, Renner, Envirolac, to be known as something just as well as Sherwin-Williams or Benjamin Moore, you have to get in the local paint stores. You have to make it easy to get.
Every manufacturer, whether it's Envirolac, Renner, Centurion, Malaysia, I don't know much about Novalac. I haven't even seen it, but most of the mainstream ones that we're all seeing, that we see the most of, have one primer and one top coat that rolls and brushes beautifully. The 400 series, it looks gorgeous. So put it in quarts. Put it in quarts and sell it to women that are sitting in their basements or in their dining rooms on drop cloths, because the smell isn't that bad. The VOCs on it aren't that bad.
And I think that's in the manufacturing side, all manufacturers, the easiest thing to sell is buckets. Let's just face it.
Yeah,
if you don't sell drums, it's buckets, because that's what costs the least to make and takes the least amount of labor.
Well, I mean, Corey was filling her own cans.
Yeah, because
to do it.
Yeah, because Malaysia won't do it. And it just, the time consuming, the nature of it was just insane. And I long pushed putting primer and finish coat in quartz because I think it would do very well. In order for that to go mainstream, I think one of these big guys, whether it's, any one of the Italian guys or the American guys, they're going to have to partner with a Benjamin Moore who already has a capability to do quartz, that has the machine that they can just bulk paint and send it to them. Like, that's where I think the evolution into getting that product into quartz, into mainstream, whether it's Behr, Ben Moore, General Paint.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big thing too, because like we were saying, most of these women are painting furniture. They don't need a 90-gallon of forest green. They need a quart.
Yep, quartz. I think it may come. I think it may come in a couple, hopefully within the next year or two. I'm thinking there's going to be someone that's going to partner up with somebody that can do quartz for them, because these small guys, whether it's Centurion, Envirolac, Renner North America, I mean, all these guys' facilities are just not set up, and they don't have the capital, because the ROI on quartz. I mean, what's crazy, I think, is they get a little too logical. They're saying, hey, I'm going to have to sell a quart for $10 less than I sell the gallon by the time it's all said and done. So why would I do it? And I'm like, Benjamin Moore does it, and it's about that, but people still buy them.
Yeah. I mean, I think like some of those, the quart, like I think there's, what is it, Melange or something is one of them that a lot of the furniture girls are using now. I think it's like a $50, like $40 or $50 for a quart.
Yes, I know. It's crazy. So I know we're getting here to the end of it. What about, I just looked down, I was like, oh crap, gotta go get the kiddos. How about last minute advice, that not last minute, but any advice that you would have for men or women wanting to get into the finishing industry?
Education. And don't be afraid to ask questions, because you can read through those forums all you want. It doesn't mean you're going to find the answer to what you're looking for. And yeah, research, test, spend some money. You got to spend money to make money. Spend some money, test out products, and find what you like. Not every product is for everyone.
There's a bunch of them out there. Find the one that works for you and stop changing.
Yeah, and I do think there's a lot of products that are better for certain situations, but I think once you get comfortable with one product, you're more likely to find how those other products work, and you find those uses. And stop painting kitchens with Advanced and Emerald.
Amen. I'll amen to that one. And then one last deal. You've heard me do it every episode. What's something that might surprise our listeners about you? Yeah, something that we wouldn't think. Hobby outside of paint geeking.
I don't have a hobby outside of painting. Oh, plants. I have plants. I have lots and lots of plants. I have a whole room dedicated to plants.
A whole room. Now that's unique. Like tropical plants or all kinds?
Tropical, succulents, houseplants. Yeah. And I was in the flower industry when I was younger, and I wasn't allowed to be in the flower shop on plant delivery because I couldn't keep them alive. But I guess I had kids, and it taught me how to keep things alive.
Love it. Love it.
That's about it. I am a paint geek all the way.
I feel you. I mean, a paint geek so much, decided to start a podcast about it. Oh, man. Chrissy, I appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. Oh,
good. I'm glad. I had a lot of fun.
Awesome insight. Your socials, shout out your socials so people can go follow you, reach out if they've got questions.
So at Winegardener _FFC. And then my personal one is now Chrissy, just doing what I love, with underslashes where there should be spaces. I'm not going to spell that all the way out. And then we're also on Facebook under the same ones.
Perfect. I'll throw those down in the comments in the description so you guys can go follow them. But if you're not, go follow Chrissy, follow Winegarden, reach out to him if you got any questions. Again, thank you for coming on.
Willing to help.
We'll try to circle back in like 3 to 4 months and see how the transition is going and get you on another episode.
That'd be awesome. I would love that.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate everybody listening, and we will see you on the next episode.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the Bearded Finisher Podcast. We thank everyone for joining. Keep hustling, keep learning, and never settle for anything less than your best. Remember, the path to perfection is a journey, not a destination. Until next time.